123 Code, and this video is a tutorial on microbits. Microbits are pocket-sized computers. They measure about 4 centimeters by 5 centimeters, so they're a little bit smaller than a credit card. They're quite thin, and these can be programmed to do different things. On the front we've got some LEDs and some programmable buttons. They've got different sensors inside, so they can detect motion, they can detect what position or what direction they're pointing in, so they have a compass. They can detect a light. There's a light sensor, so if it's light or dark, and also temperature. They have Bluetooth in them, so that you can connect them to other devices, and to power them you connect a battery pack, or you can use a USB cable as well. So they're designed for about 10 years old plus, but really kids younger than that can use them as well. So similar to Scratch, you can use code blocks to program the microbits to get them to do different things. As you can see here, I've just used a simple program just to show a smiley face emoji. You can program the buttons to do different things, scroll text across and so on. And as I said, they're packed with loads of different sensors which you can access and use to turn it into different things. There's other accessories you can get. So here we've got a traffic light accessory. If you get 2 of these, you can get them to signal to each other. There's also line following cars that you can get. I can just find the on switch. And again, you can use the microbit to program that. And one last accessory, which is pretty cool, I think, is this one here is a microbit connected to a moisture sensor. So it's telling me when I need to water my plant, which I need to do now. So to program microbits, we're going to use a website called makecode.com. This is a website by Microsoft, and it's a very easy to use website to drag and drop your code blocks to make your programs.
There are a few different websites where you can program microbits, but I think the best one by far is the makecodes.com website by Microsoft. So you can go straight to makecodes.com, or you can Google MakeCode and you'll get it from there. So once you come to the MakeCode website, you'll see that you're able to program lots and lots of different things here. So the first one we can see is microbits, but there are other computers and accessories that you can program. There's also an offline microbit editor. So if you don't have internet connectivity, you can download that and make programs for your microbit using that. So we're going to scroll back up to the top and click on the microbit icon. This is going to open up a new tab where it'll have some tutorials and games and different things you can do using the microbit, but we're going to start a new project by clicking on the new project button, and this will open up the microbit project editor. So we'll just give it a second to load up. Okay, so let's take a little tour around the screen here. So on the left here, up the top left, we have a simulator of a microbit. So we can actually create code and test it out and run it on this simulation of our microbit before we even download it and put it onto our physical microbit devices. In the middle here, or on the left middle, we have our toolbox. So there's lots of different categories of blocks. So we've got basic blocks, input blocks if you want to program the buttons or do something when the microbit is shaken or anything like that. We have music blocks, so you can play different tones and different keys and so on. Just to note though, there is no speaker in the microbit, so to actually use these you will need to have an accessory attached to it. There's LED blocks, so you can plot different lines and different dots across the LED dots on the front of the microbits. There's radio blocks, so the microbits can actually communicate to each other. So if you have 2 or more microbits, you can send messages, send numbers, and send texts back and forth between microbits. We have our loop blocks, so if you want to repeat code a certain amount of times. And then we have our logic blocks, so if we want to do our if-then or if-then-else's, if we want to test a condition and run a certain code for it. You can create variables and use them within your code, and then we also have math blocks, so adding, subtracting, multiplication and so on, or if you want to get a random number, that's where you'll find it in there. There's an advanced menu as well where you can get into functions, arrays, text. There's specific blocks for games and images, and you can even add extensions. So earlier on in the video, I was showing you some of the accessories that you can connect to the Microbit. So some of these you might need to get specific blocks for. So the line following card that we use is the bitbot. And to add in extra blocks for that bitbot, you will go into extensions to do that. The main area of the screen here on the right hand side is your code area. This is where you drag and drop your blocks. At the start, it will always start off with 2 blocks by default, the onStart block and the forever block. That's because these are typically used quite a lot. The onStart block will run any code you put inside it when the Microbit is turned on, when it's started, and the forever block will continually run whatever blocks you put in there. So let's create some code. If you've used the Scratch website before, then you'll be quite familiar on how to do this. So similar to Scratch, we have our toolbox here with all our different blocks. And to use any of the blocks, choose the block you want. So let's show an icon. So I'm going to drag this block in and I'm going to put it inside the onStart block. Drag and drop it inside. And as we can see, our simulator reacts to whatever code we've put in and runs it as it were on a real Microbit. Now let's program some buttons. So let's drag in an on button A pressed. So on button A pressed, we will show some text. So show a string. So at the moment it says hello. So we'll just test that by clicking on the A button in our simulator. And as you can see, it shows the word hello. Now the screen, I think, is 5 by 5, so 25 LEDs. So it can't show multiple letters at the same time. So it can only show one at each at a time. So it needs to scroll them across. So let's just see that again. You can see them scrolled across there. Let's use one of the sensors. So this time we're going to program the B button. So I'm going to drag in another on button A pressed. You'll see that it ghosts out. That's because you can't have 2 on button A pressed blocks. So once I change this to on button B pressed, you'll see that it comes in properly. And we're going to, let's display the temperature. So we have a sensor here for the temperature, which is in Celsius. Now that's going to return a number, this block, whatever the temperature is. So I'm going to need to get a block to show a number. So in BASIC, I'm going to drag in show number. And I'm going to put the temperature block inside it. So it says show number temperature. So when I click the button B, it will show the temperature. So again, this is just simulated in the simulator, but if this was on an actual Microbit, it would use the sensor in the Microbit and show what temperature it is. So lastly, let's do a little animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to just make the heart beat. So we're going to show a big heart, then a small heart. So I'm going to drag the show icon heart from onStart to forever. And I'm going to go into the basic toolbox and get another show icon block, chain it underneath and change it to the small heart. You can see here there's lots of different icons that come pre-packaged with it, but we'll choose the small one. So it's going to show the big heart, then the small heart, and that will give a little kind of heartbeat animation effect. So if you have a Microbit and you want to get your code that you've written onto your Microbit, you need to follow these steps. First of all, let's give our project a name. So I'm just going to call this 123 code, but you can give it any name that kind of makes sense for what you have made. Then click on the big download button. This will package your instructions, your code instructions, into a file, and it'll download it from the website onto your computer. So a message has just popped up here to say that it's done. So next I'm going to open up my downloads folder. So I'm going to go to downloads, and I can see my Microbit 123codes.hex file here. So this is my actual file of my codes that I've created. So there's a couple of ways you can put it onto your Microbit. So I've already connected my Microbit to my computer using the USB cable. So if you want, you can right click on the file, go to send to, and then you should see a Microbit option in the send to menu there. The other way you could do it is open up a second Windows File Explorer folder and open up your Microbit folder, so your Microbit drive that's connected, and you can just drag and drop your file onto the Microbit drive, and that will copy it across using the USB cable onto your Microbit. Then you can plug out your Microbit from your computer, plug in a battery pack, and whatever code you've made then will run on the actual Microbit itself. So that's our Microbit tutorial. I hope that gives you a good sense of what Microbits are and what they can do. The best way to learn is just to dive in, start playing around with the different blocks and see what you can come up with. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to get our weekly coding projects, make sure to click on subscribe. And if you have any suggestions on what you'd like to see us make next, just comment in the video below.